Real quick before we get into today's video, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon for all their support, because without their help, the upgraded content that you see on the channel, that you really see in the video essays and a few of the lore discussions would not be possible without their help. But over on the Patreon, you get sneak peeks of videos months in advance. Patrons also get priority on the Q&As. Every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul, and I give away a lot of good goodies in that. And it's also just really cool to talk to you guys in the DMs, and if some of you guys have theories that you want me to talk about on the channel, obviously I will talk about your theories. Just send them to me over on the Patreon. But with that being said, let's get into the review. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys a review for Boruto episode 238. And now that episode 238 is done in the books, we got a lot to talk about, and I'm gonna say right now, I was actually more impressed with this episode than number one, last week's episode. I know last week's episode had the action and whatnot, and you had some very smooth animation sequences, in particular when it comes to the bounce element last week during the battle. I totally understand that, but I went into this episode with very low expectations just because I'm not a huge fan of the whole whodunit type episodes. You guys know that from the Hozuki Castle episode where they're trying to find out who the killer was. So when I saw the synopsis of the episode, I was very worried that I was gonna be very tuned out. I was very worried that I would fall asleep watching the episode. I'm not even gonna sit here and cap to you, but this episode actually held my interest. And I think the difference between this episode and the Hozuki Castle episode where they're trying to go through and find out who the killer was this episode here gave us more in terms of there being an actual character connection, and it's being more character driven than anything that we had seen in Hozuki Castle by the point of that episode there. So with that part out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and get into the review. But real quick, cheap plug, over on King Bullet's channel, we did a video going over why the Six Tails Naruto versus Pain episode is actually one of the better animated episodes in Naruto Shippuden. We debunk a lot of the memes that are out there, and you guys have heard me say in anime reviews more than once that there's a difference between art and animation, and a lot of people can't distinguish the difference between the two. We go over all 12 principles of animation and break everything down in a very informative way. That's a script that we've been working on for a few months now, and I gotta say, as somebody that took part in the video, I'm very proud in how that came out. I highly recommend checking out the video. So with that being said, let's get into the episode review slash recap. So I have to say, the whole idea of having that captain be killed off, that was interesting to me because it brought two outcomes to my head right away. The first thing that it did is it made me think that, hey, Konoha really caught a lucky break, because that man was gonna have to be paid damages, but now this man went nighty-night, so they ain't gotta pay this man nothing. And then the second thing that it brought to my head was this was a good choice to have him killed off, because in a payoff perspective, killing off some random civilian that was on this ship before this, it wouldn't have hit the same. At least with this captain, he's quirky. He's had his moments where you look at him and you're like, yo, my God, this dude is drunk, and he's got like the everlasting glow on his face because this man's got the rosy cheeks and nose. Like, you're looking at him, he's had some little quirky, funny things that, at least to me, that he said in the past. So it was one of those things where when I found out that he died, it kind of hit me. It was like, oh man, that sucks. I actually like him. Now, I like how immediately they jump right into paying off a lot of the issues that you had with the Hidden Mist field trip arc, where Iwabe's grandfather ended up dying fighting against a Mist Shinobi. So he's got a very strong prejudice against the Mist Ninja. And so you see that right away come up on Front Street when everybody else is like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy died. Iwabe immediately just jumps to the suspicion. And I like that you see that. And I like how with Boruto, you see how he takes it the hardest, because he was one of the ones that was able to talk that innocent captain into helping them. And so I like that you got that moment from Boruto, but I also like how you see some moments of growth in Boruto, because while he's wrapped up in his emotions, he's not so emotional to a point where he can't at least think clearly when it comes to Iwabe. And I thought that that was interesting. Boruto had moments in this episode where he flashed that he's actually worthy of becoming a Chunin. Because unlike Iwabe, who immediately let his emotions take the better of him and he's completely blind, which is something Boruto is very aware of, because he remembers that Iwabe had a relative who died fighting against the Hidden Mist village and that his judgment might be clouded. Boruto's also there to keep an eye on Iwabe. Boruto's able to show a cool head during this time, and I like how when Kyoho ends up being targeted by Iwabe and you got Hebi Ichigo trying to take up for him, Boruto says, well, I want to stay here. That's a good sign of emotional growth for Boruto right there. Now, on the other side of the episode, I like the decision to split up and break everybody up into teams and have everybody start looking for information. And this is when we get the opportunity to really see Kawaki shine as a character. I was very impressed with Kawaki in the episode, especially when it got to the part of the story where you had citizens who knew a little bit too much about what was taking place on the ship. We really got a good opportunity to see Kawaki sharpen analytical skills. That was something that we've only seen flashes of, mostly in combat situations, not necessarily in the anime when it comes to his thought process in non-battle situations. This kind of goes back to the fact that Kawaki does come from a half-decent bloodline. We don't know his father's name, but we know that his father used to be a very skilled shinobi. He just went crazy in the aftermath of the Fourth Great Ninja War. I also like how Kawaki is able to come up with a very, very well thought out plan right there on the spot and get Sarada to go along with the plan. And basically they use Iwabe's emotions against him, because it becomes very clear that Iwabe can't think straight when it comes to anything to do with Hidden Mist Shinobi. So what Iwabe does when he gets this information, he's like, oh, it's gotta be him. Kawaki allows him to think like, okay, they said they saw this man, he's freaking out, he won't take off his mask, surely this means that he's done it. Iwabe's ready to play judge, jury, and executioner. Kawaki and Boruto race after him, and you have this moment where off screen what Kawaki does is Kawaki pretends to kill Kyoho, and we get the off-screen moment at the end of the episode where Kawaki's blade comes down right at this man's face and just barely misses it, and he tells him, I need you to play dead. And Iwabe gets super triggered by this because he wasn't keyed in on the plan, and Kawaki tells him, I didn't think you would be the type of guy who would be able to act and contain his emotions, so I didn't tell you. And what that tells you is that Kawaki's gotten a very good read on the Konoha Shinobi. He's also thinking like a shinobi. He's very observant like a shinobi. I like those aspects of the character that you see here. This kind of jumps Kawaki further up my list of characters I like. And what I also like about this is that when it comes to the shinobi that is able to use the hidden jutsu that Suigetsu does, which is the body hydrification jutsu, where you're able to liquefy your body, you have this moment where the guy gets revealed to have been using that jutsu to go inside of people's bodies, control them. He was controlling one of the citizens that way. He was planning on controlling Kyoho's body that way and using Kyoho as a way to wipe out all the shinobi on the ship. This Funato clan shinobi, once he's been cornered, he decides he's going to go straight through Hebi Ichigo's needle attack that she has, where she has all these strings, and the further you keep going into them, the more they begin to bind your chakra and slice you up. Well, he endures all of that, and he goes into the engine and he blows himself up and damages the actual engine. And because I can already see a few people getting confused by this, that hydrification jutsu that he used, that's not a Kekkei Genkai. That's just like what you have with the shadow paralysis jutsu and the partial expansion jutsu, mind transfer jutsu. They're not Kekkei Genkai. They're hidden jutsu that can be passed down from parent to child. It can be passed down from clan member to clan member. It can be taught from one clan member to a non-clan member. It's not a Kekkei Genkai where it's something you're born with. It's just a secret jutsu that your clan specializes in. So it's not crazy to say that he was able to learn the jutsu from somebody from the Hozuki clan. But getting back to this character being willing to sacrifice himself, I thought that this was a good decision right here. This is good in terms of conflict. It also shows that when it comes to Funato clan, that there's a level of fanaticism that's there, where these people are willing to give their lives for a cause that's greater than themselves, which means that when it comes to Yumi, this is a character who, if he's able to inspire motivations and lines of thinking like that, this is somebody that is likely a very charismatic leader. That's something I think that we've got enough on the Funato clan. Now we need to see more of Yumi at this point. So I hope that they don't keep this character for the end of the arc. Like, we saw him very briefly. I hope that they don't keep his personality and quirks held into the very end. I think that this is needed in terms of investment from the viewers, but if that ends up being the route, I think that we're going down a halfway decent job of getting the character over. I just think there's a better way of actually doing it. Now, in the next episode, the issue that it looks like we're running into is that the ship has essentially stopped moving. And I've seen people ask, well, why don't they just walk on water from wherever they're at to the next island and etc.? And why don't they walk on water and just carry these civilians from one section to the other? And one thing that kind of stands out to me on that is when it comes to the whole walking on water jutsu, part of why that's like harder than like the tree climbing stuff is like when you walk on the water, the amount of chakra you got to use is constantly adjusting when you get like the waves and the ripples and etc. And I don't remember this from the manga, but apparently in the Shippuden anime, you had a line where either Kakashi or Yamato, somebody was explaining to Naruto why they had to take a ship to get to Turtle Island. I believe it would have been Mike Guy, just based off of the fact that Guy was the one that was on the ship with Naruto and Yamato, so one of those two. But the thing that they told him is that the constant amount of chakra that gets sent out when you're having to walk on water across a long distance like that would be something that would be pretty impossible for the normal shinobi because of the constant release of chakra that you got to do. Now, as you guys know, I didn't watch any of the Naruto Shippuden filler, so I can't speak on any additional scenes added, but that's the thing I got told when I asked around. So I'm assuming that's what Boruto's anime is doing here. I personally, I'm not thinking too much of it. I think from a military perspective, securing a ship and transporting everybody via that ship was the thing that made the most sense, because you're going to create a greater sense of security for those people if they're in a ship and they've got some sense of normalcy, opposed to they're on some type of lifeboat or something being escorted by ninja. There's going to be a greater sense of danger at that point. But I want to throw that out there because I got that question a lot in the comment section last week of, well, why don't they just transport all the civilians this way? That's why. However, I want to know from you guys, what are you guys' thoughts about the episode? Were you like me? Was this a better whodunit episode in your opinion, or was this more the same in your opinion? Let me know down in the comment section below. So always, guys, like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.